Welcome back to Orion Talk Radio. You're listening to The Conscious Resistance. My name is Derek Rose. Thank you guys for tuning in. I've got a special guest on the line for just a few moments with us, Mr. Antonio Buehler of the Peaceful Streets Project. How are you doing, man?
I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, I wanted to just get you on the show for a few minutes because I saw you posting some videos earlier this morning of some cop watching. Did that happen just last night?
It actually happened early this morning.
All right, well, go ahead and tell everybody what happened.
Well, what we do is we go out and we watch cops and we film cops in order to, one, encourage them to act in an appropriate manner, not infringing on people's liberties or their rights, and then two, to document what they're doing so we can share with the public, so we can show what these so-called public servants do. We were in the Runberg area, which is a particularly bad part of Austin. People from Houston probably wouldn't think so, but Austin's a very safe city, but Runberg is one of the worst parts, and they have a lot of police up there who are trying to stop crime by throwing peaceful people in jail. So we were following a cop car. We saw a cop car, so we decided to follow it, and it stopped for a real long time, and so we just sat behind it for a while, and then it began driving, and it started driving really erratically. And then apparently he called in his buddies, so a bunch of cop cars sort of converged on us and pulled us over. And we pulled into a 7-Eleven, and the cops came up and started yelling at me, telling me to roll down my windows and get out of my car, to put my camera down. And I knew that I had not committed a crime. I knew that I wasn't under suspicion of a crime. The best thing that they could articulate for their reason for detaining me was that we were interfering with a police investigation. And clearly we never interfered, and there was no investigation. And so I eventually became irate at the fact that these guys were so blatantly infringing upon my rights merely because they didn't like us filming them, that I went ahead and I told the cops what I thought of their illegal action.
Okay, so you got the whole thing on tape, and how did they respond to that?
Well, I didn't get the whole thing on tape, unfortunately. So there was some other people that were there with me who caught the beginning of it on tape, but they didn't react too well to it. I think that they're not used to having people talk back to them, to stand up to them, and I think in a way it caught them really off guard, and they didn't know how to respond. I'm very fortunate that we were in a 7-Eleven parking lot, that there were people that started to gather to watch what was happening, and I had 3 people in my car, all with cameras, and in that regard, I think that I was much safer, and plus they all knew who I was, so they addressed me by name before they even came up and saw my face. I think that if an average, like, say, young black male would have done that, it would have turned out much worse for him, but I feel like I do have a little bit of a better situation than some people. But they didn't take it very well. They ended up taking my arm and pushing me into the car, patting me down, and then they eventually ran my license to try to get warrants, even though they know that I don't have any outstanding warrants. But that's what they did.
All right. We see this behavior seem to increase, especially with you, man. I mean, like you said, they know who you are, and you seem to get targeted specifically. And the more we do cop watching out here, the cops definitely know who the Peaceful Streets Project in Houston are, and it does seem like they have an agenda against allowing that to happen. Now, I wanted to ask if we can go a little further with the conversation here for a couple of minutes. I wanted to talk about cop watching, and I guess just some comments that I've heard recently, and to get your thoughts on that. Now, for those of you who are listening, cop watching, it sounds just like it's just like it sounds. You go out and you watch cops. It's not there to harass the cops or to interfere with them. Like Antonio said, it's to keep them accountable, to keep everybody safe, and to encourage better behavior in them. If they're doing their job, it should be no problem. Now, interactions, confrontations do occur because police officers often they reject the filming, and sometimes there's a bit of ego on both sides. I can say, I've witnessed that in different cities. What do you say to people who think that the attitude that as soon as we hear something about a cop being violent or a cop shooting somebody, that people are automatically, pulling out the anti-cop rhetoric. Like, what do you think that to the average person who just sees that as extreme?
Yeah, well, I think that the average person who sees that extreme is suffering from a couple things. One is they don't see the damage that these cops do. And a lot of people don't wake up to the fact until it happens to them or a loved one. A lot of people will sit there and they say, oh, I support the police, until the police end up killing someone they love or sending someone to prison for a crime that they never committed. So I think that's one major problem. Two is I think that people are afraid to be seen as being extreme. They're afraid to be seen as someone who's going to take a stand, because that's out of the norm. And in our society, it's encouraged that you just sit down, be quiet, play the game that they have dictated for you to play, and somehow things will come out in the wash, which is simply not the case. So they actually do a lot of harm by coming out and immediately attacking anyone who calls out police abuse. And they do a lot of harm when they try to blame the victim for things that corrupt cops do. Because what they do is they make it easier for these corrupt cops to continue to infringe upon the rights of people and to abuse people and kill people. And they also make it harder for other people to step forward and say what needs to be said. I would encourage people to, instead of attacking the messenger who's trying to inform people as to what these cops are doing, to actually look at the actions of the police and say, okay, is it cool that this cop just shot a dog, for example, that wasn't attacking him? Is that cool? Or are we really going to blame the person who owned the dog because they hadn't registered the dog? That's just one example from Sandusky, Ohio, that's been going on this week.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that if you have a moment, about Sandusky and what's happening out there.
Yeah, so I don't know the complete story, but there was another incident of a cop shooting a dog, and as always, whenever a cop shoots a dog or a person, they always use the argument that they were worried about their life. Officer safety trumps everything, and so people in Sandusky rightly got mad, and they had a protest, and they rallied up a bunch of people to start demanding answers. And as like clockwork, a bunch of people came out to support the police, because it doesn't matter what you say, the police are right, and the lives of the cops, just trump your right as a citizen and the lives of dogs. And it was a shame, because when people are digging for excuses for police, they'll come up with anything. And one of the things that they came up with in Sandusky was, oh, well, the owner hadn't registered the dog, and as if that the owner not registering the dog somehow justifies a cop killing it.
Yeah, there's a lot of excuses to be made for cops, and I've done videos and talked about cops and dog killing, and I think, obviously if a cop can't show respect for a human life, we shouldn't really expect them to show respect for animal life at all. But these things are happening, and if you're listening and you're surprised that this stuff happens, check out peacefulstreets.com. Look at Peaceful Streets Project. Start a chapter in your area. We need to hold them accountable to make sure that these things decrease. And as I was saying earlier in the show, the more that we create alternatives, whether it's with the police or any other government, state institution, we will create a better alternative. It'll eventually take over. Antonio, out here, we've been having people come towards us, and when they interact with cops, they call the Peaceful Streets Project, as I'm sure they do out there with you guys, asking if we can do anything about it. We had people asking us to basically be like the kind of neighborhood watch for one of their events, even. So, we're offering a better alternative, and I appreciate what you guys are doing out there. I appreciate you taking the time to come talk, man.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate that. And hopefully, people can start seeing that there are alternatives and that we don't need to call the cops every single time we have a disagreement. And oftentimes, calling the cops ends up in a very bad outcome. Just on Friday here in Austin, a man called the cops because he had shot a dog that had attacked him in his own yard. And, and I understand, if a dog is attacking you, that is a legitimate concern. So this guy calls the cops, because, he wants to deal with it, as necessary after the fact. And the cops end up shooting and killing him. And it's just like, if he never called the cops, there's a good chance that he would still be alive.
That's 100% right, man. Thank you for talking with us. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you. Take care.
It was Antonio Buehler of the Peaceful Streets Project calling from Austin, Texas. Thank you guys for checking that out.